The Emperor has been expecting you.
Greetings, Star Warriors, this is Man and Ushanka, and today I will finally publish a video I've been planning to complete for a long time. A video about Grand Moffs of the Galactic Empire, about who they are, about what differentiated them from the rest of the Empire's officials. The same story, albeit a bit shortened one, I also plan to do in German. After all, if I'm not misinformed, it was the German language that gave the English language the tradition of adding the word Grand in front of military ranks. Grand Moffs, Grand Admirals, Grand Generals, and so on. So, from the films we can learn only about one Grand Moff. Grand Moff will have Tarkin. In the new canon of Star Wars, he is the only Grand Moff mentioned anywhere, and such a title was, according to Disney, created for Tarkin, and Tarkin alone. He was the only legitimate user of the noted title. And yes, of course, there were some pretenders that called themselves Grand Moffs after Tarkin's death, yet this rank was never officially bestowed upon them. They used it as a symbol of their civil power after the dismemberment of the Galactic Empire. The title Grand Moff, as we mentioned above, was a civil one, yet to practically execute his powers, a Grand Moff from both the new and the old canon could use military personnel, from mere squads of infantrymen to whole fleets of terror-inspiring capital ships. In the old canon, it is estimated that some Grand Moffs could potentially command hundreds of billions, or maybe even trillions of soldiers. The whole size of the Imperial army, as we remember, numbered in tens of trillions. Just imagine the scale of the power held by Imperial Grand Moffs. Just imagine the scale of the industrial and logistical might working and growing to support the civil and military organization of the Galactic Empire. To be honest, if Palpatine continued to be a grand strategical mind, instead of pitifully trying to subjugate some Jedi for the fun of it, he could have subjugated not only the Outer Rim, but also the unknown regions, and perhaps even other galaxies, sending Grand Moffs as executors of his ever-growing power and political will. The old canon of Star Wars gives us many names of people that once held this high title. For example, Hissa and Zinj, as well as some heroes of other periods, such as Ordeal Viken from the era of the Hyperspace War, and some Grand Moffs from the periods of Darth Krayt's domination. The title itself appeared about 20 millennia before the events of the films, during the so-called expansionist period, when this title was given to rulers of vassal and satellite governments of the Galactic Republic. Such a situation of a republic having many subsidiaries is also familiar to us in the real world. An obvious example would be the allies of the Roman Republic. It is possible that these Moffs from the olden days weren't allowed to send delegates to the Galactic Senate. On the plus side, the degree of their autonomy was probably way higher than the one enjoyed by the governments of Galactic Republic's member worlds. It is unknown whether such Moffs received a lot of military support from the Republic, but it is very likely that in case of some kind of real emergency, Republic was obliged to help them. And even though such a coexistence was already beneficial to both of the parties involved, the evidence shows that most of these allies later joined the Republic as member worlds. Most likely, by the time of Darth Revan, as well as by the time of Darth Bane, the quasi-feudal titles of Moffs still existed, just like the titles of Jedi Lords, for example. Yet after the Ruusan Reformation an event that shaped the Galactic Republic into the form we could see in the films. The title of Moffs was almost never mentioned in the old sense. The Republic was divided into 1,024 regional sectors, each of which could also be divided into subsectors, each of which could receive a Governor-General, who were sometimes called Moffs. By the time when the Clone Wars began, Palpatine forced the Senate to pass a law which gave him undisputed powers of appointing new Moffs for military purposes. Moreover, according to the law, this became his duty, so it was even harder for the general population to notice the ever-growing seeds of tyranny inside their benevolent leader. It was this law that allowed Palpatine to consolidate his power and avoid the beginning of a civil war when the Order 66 was executed. The newly proclaimed Emperor then also published a decree that once again reformed the system of sectoral management, making it centralized as never before. Moffs, of whom there were now more than 1,000, directly administrated the executive branch of power, while also being supervised by the Imperial Intelligence and Comp Nor, an organization that was similar to the real-world authoritarian political parties. A new social strata was born, a new strata that was infinitely loyal to Palpatine and his brutal policies. Nonetheless, many of the Imperial worlds still maintained a relative political autonomy. The Galactic Empire consisted of tens of millions of planets, and the direct management of all of them was not in question. However, rulers of some planets, as for example Vardas, were very patriotic. Apparently they even painted the leaves of local trees or something, just to appear even more loyal. The imperial political system, however, was still changing. The title of Grand Moff was established and given to Tarkin, who supervised one of the Empire's most important secret projects, the Death Star. Over the years, the amount of Grand Moffs only grew, yet each of them had different degrees of control over vast volumes of Imperial space. There is a hypothesis that Palpatine deliberately tried to make the system of Imperial governments as complicated as possible. He wanted to be the sole expert of the legal system, to avoid other powerful individuals, to create a strategy of making powerful connections that can allow such a pretender to seize the Imperial throne. That was one of the reasons why all of the attempts of overthrowing Palpatine failed, except for that time when Palpatine himself allowed Luke Skywalker to enter the board of the Death Star and initiate the chain of events that could easily lead to his demise. After the 6th episode, the mentioned complications in the system of management turned from a useful tool into a cause of disaster. In absence of Palpatine, the empire that he created just for himself alone started to crumble. On Earth, we also have examples of such a disaster occurring, from Alexander's great empire to the one of Genghis Khan. Entities built by tyrannical rulers eventually destroy themselves from within. Each warlord tried to gain as much power for himself as possible, destroying the whole structure and making it collapse. Many decades later, however, the Galactic Empire will rise from the ashes, united around the powerful dynasty of Hell. The title of Grand Moff will again gain its significance, yet that, my friends, is a story of another age. Wow, that video was very interesting to make. I really enjoyed creating it, and if you enjoyed watching it, then don't hesitate, and don't forget to leave a like and write a comment. By the way, these strange cylinders one can see on Grand Moff's shoulders, when I was a child, I thought they were pans or something. Well, they turned out to be information carriers that can also serve the role of electronic keys. And about those rank insignia on chests of imperials, well, nobody knows exactly which amount of squares of which color means what. It is still a mystery, with different sources attributing to them different meanings. And what do you think they can mean? Write your opinion in the comment section below, and as always, may the Force be with you.